This video will contain spoilers for chapter 6 of Stella Sora. Its bad ending and basically everything recent of the making of this video in Stella Sora. Remember to like and subscribe. So it's been a while since my last video on Stella Sora. In that video I just talked about the first two chapters, or the first two story chapters, talking about the white rooms, talking about the bad endings that led to those white rooms. And I just talked about how I really liked it, in spite of how the main story wasn't catching with me. And well, months later, yeah, I'm still playing Stella Sora, but the issues that I had back then, they're still there, even though I really wanted to like Stella Sora in general. It's a gacha game with a lot of flair, it's a gacha game with a lot of character atmosphere. It's just something that I really want to get into and be one of my mainstays. But stories, the main story so far, I think overall the side stories, the event stories that I've read through, they're a lot more entertaining, a lot more fun. But the main stories, yeah, the main story is just not as good. I have not been liking any of the main stories from chapter 3 or 4, not even from chapter 1. I never liked the first story, the first characters, all that stuff. And so, but I know the gacha game curse. The gacha game curse of this story is simple. Ignore the early stories of any gacha game, because that's when the writers are getting on their feet and figuring out what they're doing. But later on, well, you're gonna get good stories. And I thought, alright, so I'm still waiting, so I'm seeing if we get rid of this curse and start making good stories. And so I played through chapter 6 of Stella Sora, which seems to be like a season 2 finale because it got its own ending and stuff, and it still wasn't it. It was better than before, but it still wasn't it. But that's not what angered me. What angered me the most was bad ending that led up to his own white room, and it was just bad. But before I start any of that, I want to just get into an overview before we start heading into that bad ending. It's a short rundown because I don't really care as much. But basically, our main cast, the New Star Guild, we went all the way to Philae for more information about the missing orphanage. After almost getting scammed out by that other company, we managed to get into this new city and try to find out, and we found out that there's a big evil company here called United Harvest, which controls the food supply of this entire city. And so, thinking that they have information about, well, everything that's happening in the city, we decided to go in undercover to find out what's happening. When scouting around the company, we get caught out by Frenze, the deputy commander, and the one basically we would presume leading the whole operations. But it really turns out that, well, after almost getting captured by her, we get saved out by the actual leader of the regional company of United Harvest in the city, Darcia. She actually is a pretty huge fan of the Tyrant. She loves the Tyrant stories and thinks of the Tyrant as this big hero. And even though we got caught sneaking undercover, she decides to let us in. And so this leads to a huge choice in chapter 6, where basically they're telling us that we could allow Darcia to join us, or us to join her. We can reject her, or just pretend to let her join us as a joke. And well, basically accepting her into our group, or accepting her in general, leads us into a pretty large bad ending consisting of multiple story points, in which reading through that bad ending, it just destroys everything about the world, the story, the characters, and it's just total BS all around. So what happens in this bad ending? Well, it's called The World Lies Still. It's an ending where being a pawn somehow leads to a total dead end for not just us, our friends, but for the entire world, as every factor shrivels up and dies. So after accepting Darcia and staying at the company for a bit, we don't really trust her, and we worry enough about everyone else that we decide to leave the Harvest as a group in the middle of the night. However, making it back to an outside camp, we get captured by Darcia and her plans, and the Tyrant, being a very loving and understanding person, decides to let themselves be captured for their friends to escape, who vow to come back and rescue them. And so the bad ending starts. Darcia uses our tactician genius and the new generation plants with a new device that she got back in the earlier chapters to immediately start producing, more evolved higher generation plants. These plants can grow endlessly and basically evolve with more captures of more people. So let's say a competent trekker gets put into the juice, their skills and experience can get put into those plants. As we are seeing with after a trekker gets captured, 2 new generation plants are able to beat Frenzy, who is pretty competent and skilled in her own right. The first combat scenario is with United Harvest HQ, knowing that Darcia is going rogue, sent in a force to attack Philae. But the story tells us that with our genius, the Tyrant's genius, and with the plants being much more spendable and much more skilled than the underpaid troops, we're able to beat out HQ and hold our ground and keep the city afloat. And Darcius does say that we're treating this like a mini civil war between the branch and the main HQ company so that people don't get any ideas. However, as years go by and we start entrenching our plants, these plants become more and more skilled than any trekker, any soldier in the world. They conquer more, they replace everything in the city and abroad with plants. Shopkeepers, plants. Bankers, plants. People don't even work anymore as these plants are become more skilled and intelligent that they basically can run the city themselves. Companionship, also plants. These plants become are their own persons, and that's on the home front. Abroad, from Philae, these plants from Darcia gets stronger and stronger, bigger and bigger, that every other company starts falling down. We keep capturing monoliths, we keep capturing and destroying any force that comes against us. And that leads to the final controversy, where we fight off against the Great Superium, which we don't know much about them, but we're basically told that they're like the main organization that watches over the monoliths and know the most about the secrets of the world. They also go down, and they're forced to give up any monoliths in Immor, basically ending this war of the world. And so with every monolith captured, every trekker now forced into little ragtag groups of resistance fighters, the story basically ends. Everything that people know and love got replaced with plants, but people are happy, they're just complacent about stuff like that. And we, during this time in these war games, also like put ourselves into the juice to make sure the production of plants keep growing and the plants become ever more intelligent. And with our skills, we do take over the entire world. But still, yeah, years later, 4 years later, the world's taken over, plants control everything. And Frenzy sneakily comes back to assassinate us, but once and for all. And we let her because we also feel like this isn't the ending that we wanted. And as we wish that we could become friends in another life, we take that one final blow and the tyrant is finally killed. So that ends the bad ending. The world stands still. And well, I have a lot of problems with it. Problem number 1, the United Harvest Civil War issue. The story of Stella Sora makes it clear that each company basically acts like a political nation. They all control certain cities, and they have total control over whatever happens in them. And they have stuff called a seal of grace. It basically defines what they can sell, what they can produce, what they can do. This is so important that a company intervening in another person's copyright is a big deal. And of course, anyone who has taken an economic or history class knows that, so that when the movement of something or something very, very important gets blocked or altered, it doesn't affect just the company, it doesn't affect just the nation, it affects the entire world. United Harvest controls the growth and selling of grain and food products. We are told that they basically control that in most of Nova. So them going into a civil war issue, them going into a conflict will carry issues across the entire world. Let's be real here. The main senate of United Harvest could have easily made a blockade against Philae, shipping them from any food getting inside the city. And they could easily pressure multiple other companies to join in on their side by saying, we're not going to transport food to you guys, or not going to allow you to produce food if you don't help us out. A food producing company going into a war can't be small, because food is one of the most integral points that people need. And they just hand wave it by saying oh, Darcia is making the intelligent plants handle everything and making the people inside the city not worry, but that just feels off. It feels like it just hand wave. There should be riots. There should be people questioning what's going on. And we just skipped over that in the beginning part of this bad ending. It also doesn't help that we were told that the army sent by United Harvest HQ are rusty and underpaid, which shows that it makes it easy for us as we're starting out on this war to beat them and hold our ground in Philae. But that also doesn't make sense. We are told that United Harvest within Philae basically controls everything. It controls all the food production there, like 70%, 80%. That's a lot. You would think HQ losing a prime location to Darcia would like allow them to like actually spend some money to actually boost up their army. Like, we were told they're greedy, but it can't be that stupid, right? It just feels like a poor story decision to just give us an easy way out in the beginning. Like, wouldn't United Harvest hire the best to get back their main location? Like, imagine losing your capital. In a war, that's a huge blow. You will focus on getting that back unless it's impossible. So yeah, this whole civil war conflict that Darcia said should be small enough to not affect everything doesn't make sense at all, because it's the start before we start getting even more crazier stuff. Like, a civil war with a food producing nation should be important for all of Nova. Wars are not minor. Wars in any type of nation is always going to affect the people, the resources, the movement of anything. I don't get it. And it also doesn't make sense that we hear that companies don't really go into conflict. Like, until the recent fight between Boss Accord and Credit Holdings Company, no other company has been into like a war in so long. So other companies have been looking into this. So seeing a major company go into a civil war, something should have been done, instead of just everyone being on the defensive when the intelligent plants run over everything. I mean, at least the Great Superium should have gotten involved sooner. We don't hear anything like that. But that's just problem number one. And let me tell you, it gets much worse later on. So my second problem is that the intelligent plants are rather stupid. So our main force against the world of Nova are the intelligent plants. They go up every generation as more basically knowledge gets put into them. And well, they can basically do anything. All I know about them is that Darcia found the mother plants, and all these other plants, they rely on information fed to the mother plants, and that's how we get these higher generation ones. And Darcia has been working undercover against the company wishes to basically use that. At the start of the bad ending, we're told that Darcia has fed Nyx a specter sent from headquarters and another member, Miltoda, to further the growth and strength of these plants. And after the tyrant is fed to it, the plants become stronger, more intelligent, the best thing ever. And well, my issue is pretty simple. These plants are the epitome of the no limits fallacy. After consuming Nyx, we're told that they become on par with seasoned trekkers. No training, no time to develop, they just can be powerful trekkers at this point. And we're also told that they can be armies at that point, which is weird. Like, after consuming Nyx, two plants are tested out to fight Frenzy, somebody with, we're told, years of experience and capabilities and confidence, and she just loses to two plants. Like, how does something like this go undercover for so long? And that seems just way too overpowered. It breaks the scaling of the story a bit, because these plants, after consuming one powerful trekker, can just beat any trekker now. It's like putting in a seasoned soldier, like Navy SEAL soldier, into like a robot, and now that robot can on par beat like 5,000 Navy SEAL robots. That's what I'm not getting. And we also told that these plants can take over anything about life. They do jobs, they do relationships, they do companionships, they can become plants, lovers, friends, all that type of stuff. I do like that context about these intelligent plants. Darcia wants to make a perfect world according to the tyrant's will, so these plants remove all types of discourse, all types of distrust, and everyone becomes too indulgent with these plants. They feed the human, they remove all fear, they remove all loneliness. These plants become basically a caretaker of humanity after everything's gone and dusted. It's a cool horror, because after seeing how powerful these plants are, Frenzy is let go and we don't see her again till the ending. And a lot of employees of United Harvest affiliate branch, they're also let go, and all they have are the plants. Like, it's cool. It's a good, interesting story of seeing the fear of what these plants could have from an outsider's perspective. But the issue is that, like, they're way too easy to control. The story glazes the tyrant too much, because we just put into the bash as well, and these plants become a 6th generation, infinite, powerful army that no seasoned trekker can beat. Like, was there really a struggle at that point if these plants could just take over the entire world? Like, this stuff isn't even from the monolith. That's what my other issue is. We are told that trekkers give up their memories, they go up these monoliths to get wish power stuff. They have to wish for these type of stuff. Darcia just found a mother plant in the woods. She has one seal of grace, and now she has basically an army that can take take over the entire world. I don't get that. It feels way too easy. And that's not even the wildest thing that I don't like about this ending. I'm just thinking that the plants, they just get overpowered way too fast. And somehow it just breaks the entire world building and the entire story. And my third major problem is bigger than the other two combined, is that the end of the world came way too soon. So yeah, I know gacha games have a point to expand the world for you. As you get further into the story, further into the game, a gacha game show you more players, more entities, more institutions, more players for you to immerse yourself into the world. To rise, you need to start first on the back foot. Like, so the big bad can't be shown at the very beginning, or if they do, it can't be fought equally. And to save the world, or to feel included into that world in that level of power, it has to be pushed to the side till later. Back in chapter 1, our first fight against the Credit Holdings Company, we are told that it's a company that's using outside help, low skilled trekkers, and it's running out of money. And we still had to use outside help. We still had to use a lot of manpower, a lot of like luck to beat them, because we start out on the back foot. That's simple, that's easy like that. In chapter 3 and 4, we verse against the big three, these big beasts that have evolved because I don't know, they just evolved, they just have bigger strength. But yet again, it's gradual because we still needed outside help, we still needed skilled trekkers who had months and years of experience to help us beat them, and that made sense. It's a small upscale, but we're getting there. My issue in chapter 6, this bad ending, we are basically told that after teaming up with Darcia to fulfill the will of the tyrant, the world of Nova just crumbles. Like, I get it. Okay, like Darcia is not even in the main company's headquarters. This is just a branch, and all she has is a bunch of intelligent plants. And we are told that in a couple years, the Grace Imperium fell. Three out of their 4 Tesseracts, wherever they are, they get destroyed, and well, their main leaders of the Grace Imperium fall, and them falling helped Frenzy sneak back into Philae to assassinate us. But like, why? We're told that the island nations of Nova that aren't affected by the war, the trekkers in those places commit raids against Darcia, but they're basically nothing, as we told that every single major player, every single major company fell towards Darcia. All their monoliths that they held went to Darcia, and Darcia wins in the end. It's interesting, but are you really telling me these plants soloed the entire story? Like, you're telling me no other trekker, no other company was able to do anything. Like, all we know that Darcia is, she got the mother plant, she got the intelligent plants, and she got the seal of grace that allows the whole information transfer to happen. That's it. And that just took out every trekker, every company the world had. This isn't the Seaborn from Arknights. This isn't like a confusing outer world parasite thing from the ocean. These are plants, and they somehow are the strongest thing ever. Like, this is where my issue stands. We're only in chapter 6. This is a chapter 6 bad ending. I still believe this is early on in this game's story. We still don't know who the tyrant is, how big of the role is in the past. We don't even know anything. But what we're told right now is that in this bad ending, these plants just destroyed everything that could have stopped them. What about the Dust Arbiters? We're told that they're an imposing faction inside the Grace Imperium. Where was their final stand? Where they couldn't just drop Gary, which we are told, as like a mana bomb and can blow up an entire city if she's not careful. Why not? Why wasn't she just dropped onto Philae like a bomb and kill everybody? What? Why didn't any trekkers or any company man go into the monoliths and wish for something to counter against the plants? Like, they should have saw, like, after like United Harvest main force got defeated, like other companies should have saw something to, like, I don't know, find a counter. Like, what about those Tetrad aspects? We were told that 3 out of the 4 fell, but aren't these guys supposed to be like the top of the verse, or no? Like, what happened to the ninjas of the Goodwin? Couldn't they just send a ninja in to kill Darcia or disable the plants or kill the tyrant? Really? None of that? What about Nocturne and Eterna? Like, the main force we were fighting against back in chapter 1 and 2. Their goal was also to take over all the monoliths. If they saw Darcia taking over all the monoliths, wouldn't they see that as a threat? We hear none of them in this bad ending. What about like the Archon stuff? In one of the side stories, we were told that these Archons are like old leaders inside the monoliths. Are you telling me none of them were like summoned or like try to reawaken to take out Darcia? If the story felt way too easy, like even the Great Imperium, which should be the closest to understanding the whole deal with the tyrant, and they fell just like that. It doesn't make sense. Like surely, maybe even a witch. Like, you know, witches are like known for infiltration, known for reporting news. We hear none of them. I feel like they would have saw all this happening and like at least try to like get information here and there to like find counters, anything like that. We hear nothing about them too. All I know that is every city on the continent fell. And that's it. I know this is a crazy one, but what about the God of Grace? Could they have descended or something? It really doesn't make sense because now, like as the story now continues and we see new characters, new companies, whatever, we have to look back at this ending and say that, yeah, but a bunch of intelligent plants swept everything. How are we supposed to feel stakes now? Why should we care about the big threats of Dr. Eterna when the intelligent plants beat them? Why are we supposed to care about the strongness of the Great Imperium if the intelligent plants beat them? Why should I care about the Dust Arbiters or like the other companies? Because they beat them. Like everything fell in this one bad ending. Why? Quick sidetrack here. I also want to talk about the White Room that we see in this ending as well. You know, with all these bad endings, we always end up in the White Room, and usually you get some lore drops, some interesting like knowledge about how the tyrant felt, and after Frenzy kills us, we should have felt, I don't know, some type of sadness, some type of like hatred for how Darcy had done that to us and how we feel like this isn't what we wanted. It should have been a very important dark room with how big this bad ending was, and we got nothing. Like the tyrant was basically strapped into a pod, basically being fed to the mother plant as fuel, and we were the ones that caused out this suffering. How we made everyone become addicted to these intelligent plants, how we basically let the world slowly die out because we couldn't stop Darcia. We just allowed her to run over us. In the White Room we appeared in, the two devils of the monolith, they just joked. They just joked about how the tyrant must have been stiff after being strapped in the pod for like the last like 4 years. Like no huge reveals at all. It's just a haha, that was a bad choice. Maybe you shouldn't do that next time. Like I feel like they should have gotten something more. Like maybe the devils of the monolith, maybe she should have talked about how different this was compared to the old tyrant. Or how would the old tyrant would have done things, or how was Darcia so far off the mark on what the old tyrant was? Because none of that was appeared in this bad ending where it could have been something interesting. But nothing, just jokes about ate your body stiff after being strapped in for the last 3 years. It just feels so off. So yeah, while it was cool of an ending where the bad guys in fact win and rule the world, and it was very unique, it happened way too quickly for like how the game is going right now. It happened way too quickly, it happened way too early, and how everything just kneeled down and bowed and crumbled for Darcia's victory. It kills how expansive and how important the world of Stella Sora could be. Gacha games can have powerful factions. I'm not saying they can't, but they should have failsafes unless this is the be-all end-all faction that should be the final villain. Like if your final villain can't destroy everything, then it's a weak final villain, or it doesn't truly interact with the story important enough. Like this is what I'm not understanding, because what happened to all the failsafes? What happened to the other important factors in this story? Why did everything just fail to Darcia and her plans? If one nation can just destroy everything else, that's not realistic or good storytelling. I think the only time is fine, like, it's an endgame faction, like I said beforehand. Like, those plants, they broke the rules of story building, they broke the rules of power scaling, they broke the rules of writing scaling. I don't know. Like, I would say that a better example of where one faction or one person or one group goes rogue against the entire world are the bad endings of Library of Runa. Spoilers ahead, okay? The thing about those bad endings is that they give us enough like knowledge of the world of Project Moon, above the city, to tell us why the library has grown so powerful and why it can rival so many factions in the city, because we played enough through the game to see that these bad endings are far ahead, and they tell us and we experience that, and we fight against powerful entities enough so we basically know that the library is strong enough to rival these factions. However, throughout these bad endings that we see in Library of Runa, we know that this isn't over for the story. The power that we do see gets clashed. The library isn't all powerful. Roland isn't all powerful. And these bad endings are bad because they don't get a happy ending. We don't get a happy ending in the Stella Sora, but it felt like there's no pushback. It was by luck that Frenzy sneaked back into our pod and killed us. Like in Angela's bad ending, she expands the library and she takes over the southern half of the entire city. However, it wasn't an easy victory. She was stalled out, new factions grew in the city, and a group called the Bookkeepers came in, and one managed to slay Angela. Yeah, I know Angela allowed her to be slayed because she was bored and didn't like her ending, but overall, we were told that a new faction was born to fight Angela. We were told that the city still functioned as an entity. Like, Angela didn't reach the head. Angela didn't reach, like, other factions in the cities that could have stomped her. Like, she was all powerful, she was really powerful, sure, but there were safeguards, there were fail-safes to know that she couldn't get away with taking over everything. And also in Roland's bad ending, his anger hit so many different people, but it wasn't without consequences. And it showed us that enough forces against you could have easily overpowered you. Roland was an angry guy that killed and fought anything for the sake of revenge for the will of the city, by thinking that the city is just a cogwheels of death, murder, all that stuff. And where did he ended up? Dead in the ditch. The United Harvest branch in Philae should have been something like that. Darcia should have been like this person who's so crazy up on the tyrant's will that she thinks that she can take over the entire world and put all those monoliths into the tyrant's hand due to her past experience, due to her history. But it didn't work. I feel like it would have been much cooler if this bad ending shows that we had a rocky start, but we keep on Darcy keeps trying to fight the other powers of the world, but let's say Grace Imperium creates a united coalition and they finally beat down Darcia. And seeing us as a threat as well, we get killed as well. I think it would have been more interesting to show that you can't just brute force a world. You can't just brute force to take out everybody. There has to be more powerful, more secret ways that a tyrant could have had back in the past to control everything. Because we know that what Darcia was doing was not the tyrant's will, and what she was doing was different to what the old tyrant was. So seeing how her failing to like reenact that will would have been a lot more interesting, a lot more like, you know, introspective to how was the old tyrant, how did they control everything, and how did they fall. But yeah, I think Library of Runa, they did a better showcase on taking over a bad ending where you against the entire world and how it fails. Well, that's more on Angela's story than like Roland's, but Angela fails is a lot more interesting than just a United Harvest branch just taking over everything. But that's a different game, and that's not a gacha game. Maybe Limbus Company has something like that, but we don't know yet. So now that we reached the conclusion, I just want to say that I really wanted to like this type of ending, this type of story in Stella Sora. Because I think in this, the tone was right, and the world was fundamentally changed through our actions. It felt like they wanted to do something really super serious. And I still really do love the concept of these bad endings, because it tells stories from different sides, and we see different sides of many different characters. Like seeing New Star Guild form a resistance group and try to fight off just to reach us again. Seeing how other companies like struggled and altered their ways because of the new advent of Darcia's plans. That was all interesting, and seeing how Grace Imperium actually moved to do something against us after, because they do appear to be an endgame faction, but it was all super interesting. However, it was just way too early. This is only chapter 6. I feel like it was like a side mode where we see an end of the world type scenario, or I don't know, they just pushed this type of ending farther down the line, because I don't know. I still do like Darcia's character, how her false idea of what the tyrant wants led to such a moment, but having her fully win is a bit harsh. It's a bit too hard to read. I think this type of ending was pushed back, I think 2-3 chapters, so we can see more of the world. And maybe if Darcia has something more up her sleeve instead of just plants. Like, sure, the plants are powerful, sure, the plants are like, they can keep on growing, they can be disposable, they can just overpower, overnumber. I feel like if she had something a bit more and she used that to take over the world, I would have liked that. Either way, I'm still gonna be playing Stella Sora. I just wish the endings ahead and the story ahead gets a bit better. I might be wrong, I might be proven right, but who knows? I'll be along for the ride. Anyways, if you're still here, thanks for watching. I hope you like and subscribe for more videos like this. I guess it's just another complaint or a rant video, but if you're like that type of content from a random guy just talking about what he doesn't like, stick around. Goodbye.